Do you like parks? Do you like dog parks? Or amusement parks? Or ballparks? Or you just like to park your car in the Harvard yard?
It's alright, he's got smart park.
Well, no matter what kind of parks you're into, you should really check out this game Parks from Keymaster Games. So, if you want to know more about this game, then might I suggest? Hi, I'm Alex and welcome to Might I Suggest a Game, a channel devoted to helping you find your perfect board game. Today I'll be giving my in-depth tasting notes on Parks from Keymaster Games, and I'll also be throwing in some notes about its really awesome expansion, Parks Nightfall. Parks is a national parks themed card drafting game for 1 to 5 players that plays in about 20 to 30 minutes per player. In Parks, players will use their 2 hikers to jockey for position on the trail to gain resources that will help them visit different national parks. Each of these parks will be worth victory points and will be your main scoring mechanism throughout the game. So don't be shy, get outside and see those parks! Parks includes some of the best art I've ever seen in a board game, and that combined with the really thematic gameplay means that this is a game that gets to my table a lot with new and seasoned players alike. So let's get into it. Will Parks be the perfect game for you? Let's find out, shall we? The first thing that you'll notice about Parks is this beautiful box art. You can see the art on all the different sides of the box, and it gives you a sense of what to expect when you open the game. A cool fact about this game is that a percentage of all the sales are donated to the National Park Service. So at the end, if you need that extra little push to get you to buy this game, that might be it. Anyways, the base game has 48 unique pieces of art from 35 different illustrators, and it really adds a whole new level of appreciation every time you flip over a new card in the game. Now when you open the box, the first thing you notice is how efficiently everything is packed. It's almost packed like an expert hiker might prepare for a backpacking trip. Everything fits perfectly into its place. The game trays that hold the tokens nest so nicely into each other, and the insert itself is not only perfectly considered, but it's also intuitively labeled, which makes cleanup and setup super easy. Most games of this caliber and with this many components usually require some aftermarket organizer to keep all the pieces in place. So I love how this one fits perfectly together right out of the shrink. The components themselves are super premium as well, with thick cardboard tiles, nice wooden resource tokens, and a metal first player token that makes you feel extra special every time you pick it up. When it's all set up and ready to go, you almost don't want to touch it. I've had people say that it looks more like a centerpiece than a board game. Now with so much thought put into the visuals and the componentry, I always have this little voice in the back of my head that says, man, I hope the gameplay brings that same energy. I've definitely played a lot of games that have great visuals and look nice, but really don't have any substance. So let's jump into a gameplay overview to see how it stacks up. Parks has played over 4 seasons, each with an individual climate and a changing trail that presents different challenges as the game progresses. Your goal is to be the player with the most victory points at the end of the game, and you'll gain victory points in 3 main ways. The first way to get victory points, which will make up the majority of your final score, is to visit Parks. I mean, what did you expect? It is called Parks after all. When you take the Visit Parks action in the game, you'll pay the required resources and place the visited park in your tableau. Congrats, you just made a memory that'll last a lifetime, or at least to the end of the game. Like I mentioned before, this is how you'll get most of the points in the game, so don't be afraid to be adventurous and stack up as many parks as you can. The second way to get victory points is from the year cards, which give each player an end of game objective to work towards during the game. Usually these aren't super critical to the final score, but they can end up being the difference in a tight game, so try not to lose track of this goal. The third main way to score victory points is to use the camera to take photos. I'll go into the specifics of this mechanic later on, but for now, all you need to know is that each photo that you take is worth 1 victory point at the end of the game. When it's all said and done, you'll add up your points from each of these 3 categories and give an extra point to the player who has the first player token, and whoever finishes with the most points wins. Now, let's talk about what a season looks like. At the beginning of each season, you'll shuffle a new advanced trail tile into the pile of basic trail tiles and lay them out one by one to make a new trail. Then you'll flip a new season card and place resources matching the weather pattern on the trail starting from the second location. This gives players a little bonus for being the first player to christen a new site. After that, you'll move all the hikers to the trailhead starting space, and whoever has the first player token will move one of their hikers to any space on the trail that they so choose. From that point on, you'll have to pay attention to the 2 movement rules. Number 1, you can never move backwards on the trail. And number 2, you can't move onto a space that another hiker is already on. Now, there is one exception to that last rule. Each player begins the round with a lit campfire token. Players can use that campfire to camp out on a space that another hiker is already on. When you do that, you'll have to flip your campfire token over to its extinguished side, and you won't be able to light it again until the end of the round. So make sure you use it wisely. When you move onto a trail space, you must immediately take that action and acquire any loose resources on that space. Most of the basic sites just allow you to gain resources like a mountain or a tree, but some of the sites include some special actions. Here's Here are the special actions you can encounter. First, this basic site allows you to choose between drawing a new canteen or gaining the camera and taking a photo. Each player starts with one canteen, but they are a valuable way to diversify your resources, so you should definitely consider picking up at least one more. To activate a canteen, you'll place a water token that you've gained on that turn onto the card and take the corresponding action. Now, it should be noted that you can only fill a canteen with a water token that you've gained on that specific turn. It's not retroactive, so you'll have to make sure you plan ahead. If you instead choose to take the photo action, you'll pay 2 of any resources to take the camera and gain a photo, which is worth 1 victory point at the end of the game. If you have the camera token, the next photo you take will only cost 1 resource. And if you keep that token till the end of the round, you'll get a chance to take a bonus photo at the trail end that only costs 1 resource as well. Other actions include exchanging any token for a wildlife token, which counts as a wild. Who would have thunk? Exchanging 1 resource for another non-wildlife resource, taking a parks action, buying gear, or paying a water to copy the action of another location that a hiker is on. You'll encounter different combinations of these actions throughout the 4 seasons, but the end of the season actions will always remain the same. When one of your hikers makes it to the end of the trail, you can place them on one of the 3 areas on the trail end tile, each with a different action. The first box allows you to reserve a park. You'll grab a park of your choice from the parks row and place it in front of you horizontally. This park doesn't count as visited yet, and it isn't worth any points until you pay for it, but it makes sure that no one else can buy this park except for you. If you're the first player to take this action in this season, you'll also gain the first player token for the next round. The second box allows you to buy gear. Gear will help make it easier for you to get certain resources and visit certain parks, so it's definitely a valuable investment to consider. When you take this action, you'll spend the correct amount of sunshine to get any of the gear in the gear row. If you're the first player to buy gear in this season, you'll get a 1 sunshine discount on whichever gear that you choose. The last box allows you to visit a park, which is the quintessential action in the game. When you take this action, you'll take a park from the parks row or a park that you've reserved in front of you, pay the appropriate cost, and place it face up vertically in front of you so that you can show off to your fellow hikers how badass you are.
Oh my goodness! That's the most badass thing I've ever heard.
Once all but one of the hikers have made it to the trail end, the last hiker will have to take their next move directly to the end space and finish the round. There's no lollygagging on the trail. Then once all the hikers are finished, you'll set up a new season and start all over again. Now, before we move on to my final thoughts, let's talk a little bit about the Nightfall Expansion. The Nightfall Expansion adds in a few elements that I think make this game even more exciting. First off, it introduces new parks cards that have instant actions on them. This allows you to chain together some pretty awesome combos, which ultimately help you visit more parks, and well, isn't that the whole goal right there? Nightfall also introduces tent tokens and the camping mechanism, which I think helps games with a higher player count feel a little less crowded. These tents allow certain sites to have a special one-time action that adds a little extra variety to the base game actions and creates a whole new set of exciting decisions to make each round. The addition of these 2 elements, plus the new and updated year objective cards, really gives the base game some extra momentum to keep the tensions high throughout the whole game. Anyway, speaking of momentum, let's keep it going and jump right into my final thoughts on parks. Parks is a well-crafted game from the inside out. I've already fanboyed pretty hard over the art and components, but to me that just adds so much to the gaming experience if a game is able to do it right, and I think Keymaster really nailed it with this game. Every time I play, I really look forward to flipping over the next park card and wondering when I'll get a chance to visit that park in real life. I also love how deeply the theme of this game permeates every part of it, from the filling up of your canteen, to the changing weather patterns, even to the way the components are so efficiently packed inside the box. Everything works together so seamlessly, and it all feels really intuitive, which is hard to find these days. For someone who lives in the Pacific Northwest, in between Crater Lake and Olympic National, I feel like this game is really well suited for me, and I love introducing it to new Portland friends as often as I can. And why not? The replayability of this game is huge. With its big stack of parks cards and its modular board, every game, and even every season within each game, presents new challenges and new surprises, and I love that sort of off-the-cuff, improv strategy type of game. Now, I should mention that the base game itself has a few things that I don't love. First, I feel like the trail can get pretty crowded with a higher player count, and the gameplay can get a little bit more cutthroat than I think the designers intended. But with the instant park actions and the camping mechanism included in the Nightfall expansion, I feel like it really does wonders for the spacing of the game. It lets everyone breathe and get a chance to do all the actions that they want to do. With that addition though, I will say it certainly adds a new layer of complexity, which means more opportunity for analysis paralysis. So keep that in mind when introducing this new variant to new players. The last thing I'll mention is my gripe with one particular gear card. It's called the Parks Pass, and it allows you to visit a second park every time you take the Visit a Park action. It essentially allows you to double your park visiting opportunities. Now, since the amount of times that you can visit parks is often the limiting factor for most people in the games that I've played, the chance to do it twice as often seems a little bit overpowered in my opinion. But then again,
you know, that's just like, Your opinion, man.
Anyways, I think Parks is a phenomenal game, and coupled with the Nightfall expansion, which I think mends a few flaws in the base game, I think it's a must-have for any collection. So, if you love the great outdoors, and you're looking for a game to take to your next cabin weekend, or if you want to immerse yourself in some amazing artwork and thoughtful gameplay, or maybe you just want to support the National Park Service and get a cool board game while you're at it, then might I suggest Parks. Thanks so much for sticking around for my in-depth tasting notes on Parks. I hope you get a chance to try this game out, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. If you have any ideas on which games I should do tasting notes for next, drop them below in the comments. Thanks again for all the support so far. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so I can keep growing this channel and keep helping you find the perfect board game. Once again, this has been a Might I Suggest a Game production, and I'm Alex, your board game sommelier, signing off.